first thing I'd like to share with you is that the GCSE Pathways booklet contains all of the information that's going to be shared in this video and a summary of all of the information provided by the subject teachers in terms of the course structures for the different subjects that are on offer. And we hope that you're going to find that really useful. There will be a printed copy available for you when we are able to get back into school as normal. So the starting point really is to consider the big picture. You know, we're in a very uncertain world at the moment, and we know that, you know, remarkable advances in technology over the last few years. We also know that the world is going to look very different in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, than it does at the moment. And there's nothing that we can do, if you like, to try and predict this. We don't. Things have changed enormously over the last few years, but we do know that certain skills are going to be important regardless of that. Empathy and kindness, creativity, curiosity, decision making, people who have a wide and deep knowledge base, people who are prepared to be adaptable and flexible, and an understanding of technology. All of these things are important skills that young people will need when they move into the jobs market in the future. The irony of seeing our business titans, as you'll see that quote on the right hand side, of talking about you know, how these things will look different in the future. They don't know how things will look in the future, and they've been saying it for many years. These fundamental skills are still important and have been important for the last few years, certainly. What we need to do and make sure is that we provide all young people with opportunities to pursue pathways of their choice in the future. So making sure that everybody knows what they're going to be doing at age 16 and then moving forward into 18 and so what sort of things are available once you get past GCSEs? The first thing is to say that obviously as a school we offer A-levels here at the University of Birmingham School. That's one of the pathways and routes beyond age 16 for young people here. There's a chance to pursue an apprenticeship, to consider vocational courses at college, some BTECs for example, or diplomas or technical qualifications, and there's also the opportunity to move into employment with training. Crucially, there is a pathway for everybody at age 16, and we put a lot of effort into making sure that everybody knows or has the advice and guidance to make informed choices about what happens next. 16, and when you get to aged 18, there are other pathways for the future, so degrees at university or degree apprenticeships, which is a relatively new a new pathway for progression. There are other university courses, and obviously at that point a greater number of people enter into employment at aged 18. So what should we do before we get there? Well, the first thing to know, you may recognise some of these faces on the screen that you can see at the moment. These are three very famous or relatively famous people who perhaps didn't have a straightforward route into what they ended up doing. The first one's Jeff Bezos. Started off as a computer scientist. That was his degree specialism, worked in banking for a bit and then set up a business, Amazon, at age 31. Has had a remarkably successful career thereafter. Samuel L. Jackson did marine biology, started off marine biology with his studying subject, changed to architecture, ended up turning to acting much later in life. And Vera Wang was a figure skater and then ended up an editor at Vogue and then has since gone on to be a fashion designer. They're three really high profile examples, but the message there is that not everybody knows straight away what they want to do in the future. In fact, lots and lots of people don't know what they want to do in the future, and lots of people change their mind, and more so than ever before, people have a variety of different jobs and even different careers as they move through their life than was perhaps the case 20, 30, 40 years ago. And so really what's important is making sure that everybody is geared up to be able to choose. And part of the process that we want to make sure that we get right for your child over the next few years is to make sure that they get the chance to choose what it is that they do next. That's one of the most powerful and important features that human beings have. That it's such an empowering thing, is to be able to make a choice about what you do. And not everybody has that. But what can we do and what can you do to give your child the best chance of choosing what it is that they do next? Well, quite simply, they need to leave here with the best set of academic qualifications that they can possibly achieve. Alongside all of those other things, the skill development, the personal development that we work very hard to make sure that we get in place, we need to make sure that they leave with the best set of qualifications that they can. And everything that we do over the next couple of years through this choices process and through the pathways process is geared up to making sure that that happens. So how, again, before I perhaps reflect on the process, I need to just make sure that everybody understands and is aware of the assessment reform that's been brought about in GCSE qualifications over the last 3 or 4 years. So the key changes that you may or may not be aware of is that the familiar A star to G grades have been replaced with GCSE grades 9 to 1, and all GCSE qualifications studied are now reformed. What was considered a good pass, used to be a grade C, has been replaced by this numerical scale of a 9 to 1, where a grade 5 is a good pass. Grade 4 is considered a standard pass, and if you do not achieve a grade 4 in GCSE Maths and English, then you must continue to resit those examinations if you want to study at college on a level 3 qualification. So if you want to pursue A-levels or level 3 BTEC qualifications, then the minimum expectation is that all pupils must achieve that grade 4 in English and Maths. And if they don't, then they need to resit those qualifications whilst they're completing their new course at college or in a sixth form. All courses are now linear, so that means that it used to be the case that there were modular examinations, but all of the examinations that count are now at the end of year 11. That isn't the case for some of the BTEC and OCR national qualifications, but they're the exceptions to that. Controlled assessment or coursework has been significantly reduced for most subjects. There are obviously still courses that do have a high proportion of coursework or controlled assessment, so design technology, GCSE PE, hospitality and catering, sports studies, music are all subjects which have a coursework component. The non-GCSE courses are graded from pass merit distinction up to distinction star, so that's our OCR national qualification in sports studies or our WJEC technical certificate in hospitality and catering. So how does this look if you match up the old scale for grades to the new one? Hopefully you can see on the screen that the top end would be the grade 9, and that's slightly higher than what used to be the old grade A star. The broad equivalencies, so the ones which are matched up in the new system and the old system, are around the grade 7. So a grade 7 standard pretty much lines up with an old grade A, and the grade 4 standard pretty much lines up with a grade C. Okay. Now, the new expectation from government is that the grade 5 is considered a good pass. And so to access level 3 study at our sixth form, pupils must achieve a minimum of a grade 5 in English language and maths. And if pupils then want to go on to study at our sixth form, they'll need grade 6s, so the equivalent of what used to be an old B grade, in the subjects that they wish to study. But for the purposes of understanding what you're going into now, this is just to give you a bit of a backdrop as to what the situation is going to be like in terms of the grading process and how it's different. So what core curriculum do we offer at the University of Birmingham School for pupils in year 10 and 11? It's not radically different to what you'll find in many schools. Now, pupils will study English language and English literature for 4 hours per week, 4 lessons per week. That's our aim. Sometimes the spread of the timetable doesn't allow that, and we'll have some more in one week than the other, but they'll get the equivalent of 4 hours in each working week. Maths, pupils will similarly get 4 hours per week. Regardless of what science pathway pupils study, and I'll outline those a bit later on, pupils will have 6 hours per week or 6 lessons per week of science. There'll be 1 lesson of core PE. Pupils also continue to study their personal learning and development programme and character education in form time, and enrichment will still form part of the school day. And this in total gives pupils between 5 and 6 GCSE grades from this common core curriculum. Most pupils will also study French for 5 lessons per fortnight, and for those that don't study French, we make a careful decision about whether those pupils would benefit from additional English and mathematics. And this is a really tough balance to strike, because we think that studying a language is hugely important in terms of being globally aware citizens and having an appreciation and not feeling isolated as we can do if we choose not to study French. But we have to also remember that the passport to next steps and success is the grade 5 or the good pass or the standard pass of a grade 4 in English and maths. And so for some young people, we make the decision that it's best that they do not study a language, because we need to make sure that they put all of their energy into securing those grades in English and maths. So what happens in terms of pathways? At the University of Birmingham School, we have 3 different pathways. We have pathway A, pathway B, and pathway C. Now we, as a school, make the decision about which pathway each child will follow for their GCSE studies. So this isn't the bit that you as parents and children get the chance to choose about. This is what we decide as a school, and the core aim of the pathways process is to secure the very, very best outcomes for children. And I'll explain a little bit more about the details of each of the different pathways on the next slide. But crucially, we make these decisions based on the performance that we've seen from your child in their different subjects, in our standardised assessments, in their reading tests, in their subject tests, in their assessment weeks that we've gathered over the course of their study time with us. Now, we appreciate that it's been slightly disrupted over the past 12 months, but we've still had enough opportunities. Certainly in the autumn term, we had pupils completing their assessment week in school, and we've got a really good picture of the capabilities and the strengths and areas for development for each and every child. Crucially, before I go on to the next slide, everybody can go on to study medicine or can go on to study engineering and these different routes with a double science qualification. Something that we've had as a key question that crops up year after year is, but my child's on the double science pathway, that means they can't do medicine. That's not true. The information that's shared from universities and information that's shared from the relevant organisations associated with medicine make it very, very clear that pupils can go on to study A-levels and then to be successful in gaining qualifications and places on medicine degree courses with a double science set of GCSEs. So it can happen, it doesn't rule anything out. Look like themselves. Well, if I start first of all with considering pathway A. Pathway A, pupils will study maths and English, as I've outlined. That core curriculum is in place for all pupils. In pathway A, pupils will follow the double science specification, and I'll outline on the next slide a little bit more detail about what the double science qualification really means. Pupils on pathway A won't study French, but they will get additional time each week to study English and maths. That time and those lessons will be delivered by specialist English and maths teachers, and it gives pupils on that pathway a chance to gain extra time to support them with getting the best grades that they can in English and maths. Pupils will make 3 choice subjects, and that I'll outline about which subjects those are and how that process works a little bit later on. And in summary, pupils on pathway A can achieve up to 8 GCSE qualifications, and those 8 GCSE qualifications are set up to ensure that everybody has the chance to gain that, the next steps that they need in university or in college or sixth form. Pathway B, the majority of our pupils in school follow pathway B, and this is where pupils study a maths and English set of GCSEs, exactly the same as pathway A. They will follow the double science specification. Pupils on pathway B will study French, and they will get 3 choice subjects, one of which must be either geography or history. And this will give pupils the chance to achieve 9 GCSE subjects. So the extra one here is French. Pathway C, we have again the same maths and English qualifications. Pupils on pathway C will follow the separate sciences, so they will study biology, chemistry, physics and get separate GCSE qualifications in those 3. They study French and they do 3 choices, one of which must be geography or history, and the only difference here is that these pupils end up with 10 GCSE qualifications. So again, fundamentally the decision here is about making sure that pupils are on the pathway best suited to achieving the best set of GCSE grades that they can, and we make the decision as a school about the best route forward for your child. So a little bit more detail about the science qualifications. So the same three subjects, biology, chemistry and physics, are studied on both the triple and separate science qualification and also double science. So that exactly the same subjects are studied, the same biology, chemistry and physics. The difference between them is that on the triple science and separate sciences qualification, you get an extra chunk of biology, chemistry and physics. So they do a little bit of extra content. Both double and triple science pathways have 6 hours of learning per week. They are taught by subject specialists in almost all circumstances. There are tiny occasions when we do have to have some colleagues teaching outside of their A-level specialism, but all of our science teachers are qualified to teach all sciences to GCSE standard. At the end of the qualification, pupils in the separate sciences will study 6 1-hour and 45-minute examinations, and in double science they do 6 1-hour and 15-minute examinations. The key difference here is that at the end of the separate sciences they will receive 3 separate grades, a grade for biology, a grade for chemistry and a grade for physics, and in double science they will receive 2 GCSEs as a double GCSE grade. So you get a double science grade 6-7 for example. And so that means each one, it counts if you like for 2 GCSE grades, but it's awarded as a double GCSE. And as I've said on the previous slide, in both cases pupils can move forwards to study to medicine if they wish, and go on to study A-levels in the sciences from this. Why do we talk about geography or history as a required subject? Well, the first thing to mention is that there's always a pressure, if you like, to encourage pupils to study a broad range of different subjects. Geography and history are rigorous humanities subjects, and we think it's important therefore that pupils have a chance to study one of these humanities subjects, particularly if they're considering looking to study A-levels and considering university routes in the future. And so really this gives us a good broad range of subjects that this is taken from the Russell Group, this slide. The Russell Group group of red brick universities, so Oxford, Cambridge, and then some of the sort of top 20 universities in the country, Warwick and Durham and Manchester and so on, and Birmingham, are all they had up until 2019 a range of subjects that they considered facilitating. So these were subjects that supported children and young people in accessing courses in their universities. They are in the process and have adapted this, and so that they are no longer recommending that these subjects are in place. But the next slide that I'll show you indicates why we think it's important that people study this range of subjects as a good suite of qualifications. This graph shows the percentage of pupils who enter what's called the English Baccalaureate, which is where they study maths, English, sciences, A humanities, so either geography or history, and then French, or another modern language. And if you can see, pupils who study the full 5 pillars of the EBAC, the blue bar, a much greater proportion of those young people are found in university places at Oxbridge and in Russell Group than you would find in the larger population as a whole. And so the message here is really, if we want to be aspirational for young people and we want to give them the chance to go on to join Russell Group universities or Oxbridge in the future, it's not for everybody, but we want to give as many people as possible the chance to choose. We think it's really important as a school that pupils study that broad range of subjects to give them the chance to choose later in life where it is that they want to go and which pathways they wish to follow. So talking of choices, where do pupils get the chance to choose? As I said earlier on, every young person has the chance to make 3 choices. So regardless of which pathway they are on, everybody gets a chance to choose 3 courses, and I'll outline now. So the subjects which people can choose, each of these has 5 lessons per fortnight, and as I've already outlined, history and geography GCSE are 2 of those choices, and as I've said, people on pathway B or C should choose one of those 2. So there's still a choice, but we strongly want young people to choose between those 2 for one of their choices. We then have GCSE religious studies, GCSE Computer Science, GCSE Music, we have GCSE Art and Photography, we have GCSE Physical Education, we have GCSE Design, Technology, Product Design, we have GCSE German as a guided choice, and then we have two non-GCSE qualifications, Sports Studies and Hospitality and Catering. You can find out more about each of the courses by watching the videos produced by subject leaders to give you some additional clarification about each of them. However, just to make it clear at this stage, the two which are highlighted in red, art/photography and then physical education and sports studies, we would ask that you choose that you are interested in studying either art or photography. You can't do both art and photography, and you can't do PE and sports studies because there's too much overlap between the qualifications, and so we ask you to make a choice that you'd like to study art or photography, for example. And what that will then mean is that the art department will then look at each of the pupils who've expressed an interest, and then they will guide the young person to the appropriate course for them. The same for physical education or sports studies, because we want to make sure that pupils are on choices, qualification choices that are going to give them the very best chance of success. German is posted as a guided choice, and that's because for young people to pick up an additional language at this stage, they need to already have a grounding in the subject or to already have studied German to an extent in their school life so far. So the languages department will work with families who are interested in German, and we'll work together to make sure that we can we have a group that runs in a sustainable way. So how does the choices process work? First of all, you need to know what sort of things to consider when making choices. So find out what the course is about, and that's why these videos are really important. Also, follow the links from the Pathways booklet and have a read a little bit more on the different websites from the exam boards about the course. What will the exams be like? Is it going to be a course with lots and lots of written work? Is it lots of essays? Is that something that you like? Is that a strength for you? Could you consider a different sort of course? Is there controlled assessment or project work? Does that suit the way that you work? How much does this contribute to the overall mark? Do you feel confident trying that subject with that balance of assessment? Put yourself first. Now you need to make sure this is your chance to take control of the things that you want to do. Choose options that interest and motivate you. What makes you work hard? There are certain reasons why people make choices that are not good reasons. And if I outline those briefly to you now. The first one is people make a choice of subject based on what their friends are doing. Now there are a couple of reasons why this is a bad idea. Firstly, there's no guarantee that you're going to end up in the same class as your friends, and so that's a really, really silly idea to make a decision because you think you might end up with your friends. The second reason for this not being a great idea is that you might find then that you make a choice based on what somebody else likes doing, and you end up studying a course that you find really hard or that you don't enjoy, and you're then stuck with something that's with you for the next 2 years. People also make a choice based on who are their favourite teachers. Now it's great that teachers inspire people to study their subjects, and that's a really, really fantastic part of the job, but there's no guarantee that that person is going to be your teacher next year. What you need to think about is, do you love the subject? Forget whether you get on well with the teacher. Do you like the subject? Do you find it interesting? Do you like the stuff that you're going to be learning about? Those are the sorts of questions that you need to ask yourself. It's also worth considering where it takes you in the future. So does this link with part of your longer term plans? If you don't know, just study the stuff that you like, because really that's an important thing to consider. Everything else beyond that we can figure out as we move ahead for the next few years. The process itself, we need pupils to choose 3 optional subjects. We also need them to choose 2 reserve subjects, because try as we might, we can't make this process work for everybody in the way that we would like. So it's important that alongside the 3 choices that you really, really want, you also pick 2 subjects that if push comes to shove, you would prefer those over some of the other ones that we had on offer. You then need to rank them. So number 1 being your most important to number 3 being the least. And if you can rank your reserves as well, that's even better, so that we can do our best to get you the subjects that you really want. The choices system will be made using Schools Buddy, which we've used in the past for enrichment choices, and I'll make sure that further information follows about how that process is going to work and how to use that system. Now, we do ask that parents confirm those choices on the Schools Buddy system by the 31st of March. So we're outlining this to you now, where we've got a good month and a half to get 2 months really, to get this process confirmed, to make sure that everybody understands what's happening, and further communication will follow once the Schools Buddy system is set up. For now, it's just really important that you guys have discussions at home about what possible subjects you're interested in and what you need to do about making those choices over the next month or two. Is everything from me, and I know that's been quite a long video, but I hope that's outlined every different aspect of this and most of the questions that you may or may not have. Now is a chance for you to watch some videos to find out more about the different subjects that we have on offer, and to read through the Pathways booklet to try and pick up any further questions that you may have. If you do have further questions about the process and about any of the information that I've shared in this video, please get in contact with the school, either through the reception email or contact Miss Heath or Miss Elliott as the year leader and pastoral manager for Year 9 in the first instance. And please encourage children to ask questions to their form teachers or to their teachers using class charts or the Teams platform. I hope that's been useful, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the videos that are on offer. Thanks for taking the time to watch.